the news that Vince McMahon is considering bringing back the XFL. I was curious as to Jim's thoughts on this, as well as his thoughts on when Vince originally tried this ridiculousness. I love the burger towels and the Wrestling Gold DVD.
Thank you. I've never been a fan of football. I never watched football, never liked football. My mom was a big football fan. She loved to watch football on Sunday afternoons. I never gave a shit. So when I heard that Vince was doing the fucking XFL, and that was at a time where ECW had recently been a thing, and Extreme and X and all that stuff. So I thought, well, all the extreme wrestling is garbage. So just be quite honest with you. So probably the extreme football will be fucking horseshit too. And son of a gun, wouldn't you know who won the pony? I don't give a fuck about football. I don't care about football. But to the bigger picture, and it's fine if you like football. I'm not knocking you for it. I just don't give a shit. But to the bigger picture, Vince has kind of fostered this environment in the WWF office where they have to do something else besides wrestling. Not only do they have to believe that they're not wrestling, and you know, the executives who have been there for a long time, like the Kevin Dunns, they've bought into it also, and they think they're not wrestling. And actually, you know, it's the jury's out on whether it is wrestling, whether anything's wrestling these days or not. But you know, they always thought we're not wrestling and we're entertainment and we're going to be bigger and we're going to have movies. And we're going to have record companies. We're going to have a restaurant in New York City in Times Square. That cost them about $30 million. $30 million for a fucking restaurant just because you've got a New York City fetish and you want a presence in Times Square. When I think about the WWE, the first thing I think about is fine dining. You know, it's fucking ridiculous. And the movie studios and all this stuff, you know, straight to DVD or straight to the fucking garbage bin, whatever the fuck. Every time they try to do something instead of wrestling, it ends up not only costing a fortune, but it costs the boys. Because the world bodybuilding thing, because, you know, it's not a secret that Vince and his inner circle all have bodybuilding fetishes. I think that, honestly, there can't be anything more boring in life. Golf is more exciting to watch than bodybuilding. And now, especially in the modern era, you know these fucking guys are all jacked up on monkey hormones. They're going to fucking die horrible deaths. And they look grotesque to begin with. The only thing to me that makes a male human being look worse than fucking bodybuilding is a female human being bodybuilding. The disgusting goddamn, you know, China. Fuck. Just leave it there. So they've got to do shit that they're interested in because they want to be something else besides wrestling, because they have convinced themselves that being just pro wrestling makes them less than, you know, if they were regular entertainment. To me, being the best in the world and the most successful in the world at something rather than just another player in another thing is preferable. But the ones that fucking suffer are the boys. Because who the fuck do you think's going to pay for the goddamn $30 million restaurant or the $20 million movie studio that fucking, you know, puts out shit that more people don't watch than most people's home movies, or the record company, or the goddamn football league, or whatever that NBC took a bath on that. Just stick to what you do successfully, and why worry about it? But Kevin Dunn's always wanted to win an Emmy because he thinks he's a real television producer, Pinocchio. And they foster the idea that they have to be successful in a respectable entertainment medium. Fuck, and all it does is cost them money. So if Vince has enough money and it's another company that doesn't take money out of the boys' pockets and doesn't take money off the WWE bottom line, then that's fine. Let him do what he wants. But why? Why do they do these things when they can't and they never work out? And just stick with the shit that you make a shit ton of money on. Fuck.
You say they, it's he. I mean, let's face it.
Well, I'm sure a bunch of other people are in it. You know, all the fucking Kevin Dunn, for example, reminds me of one of these fucking Republicans that fucking has a low self-esteem of the size of his penis and fucking pretty much knows that he looks like a hatchet-headed fucking beaver and wants to be recognized for doing something in a field that he thinks is important. He doesn't care that millions of people love wrestling and would be happy just that, you know, oh, I can say I'm the fucking producer of the most successful wrestling program in the world. He doesn't give a shit about that because he doesn't like wrestling. They want to do movies, major motion pictures and sitcoms and shit. Well, they ain't any good at that because there's real fucking professionals that do that shit that have a lot of experience and a lot of track record of success and are good at it. So they should stick to fucking wrestling. But that in their minds makes them less somehow than what they are. I've never understood it. Don't get it now. Wish I didn't have to think about it. There you have it.
Well, there we have it.
I'm going to pop the top on a Sprite Zero. There you go.
Sprite Zero sponsored this segment of Jim tearing down the XFL.
Well, I mean, it's just ridiculous. What the fuck? What? I have had the best year financially that I've had in the wrestling business, to be honest. Maybe not adjusted for today's money, you know, that whole deal. But by talking about wrestling, commenting on wrestling, selling wrestling merchandise, and being a wrestling personality. I don't want to open a restaurant or an auto parts store or goddamn, you know, any other business that I don't know anything about. So why they do, I don't know.
Again, you say they. It all comes from the top. It all comes from a protocol set by Vince. It all comes from people like Kevin Dunn and others who are no longer there, who drank this Kool-Aid and now accept this company line without ever actually thinking about it or dealing with it. It all comes from Vince. Let me ask you this, Jim. Who's the person there?
I don't know why they're so insecure about the incredible success, financial success, and the stock scam made them all fucking billionaires. Why they're so insecure and they have to do other things that they don't know anything about to prove that they are more than wrestling. Why do you need to be more than wrestling? If that's your fucking thing, stick to it. What were you going to ask me?
What I was going to ask you is, when you were there, was there ever anyone who could tell Vince that something was a really, really bad idea?
Yeah, but whether he'd listen was a different subject or not.
Who would he listen to? Who, you know...
No, he'd listen to everybody, but then he'd make his own decision. And I mean, and that's, you know, to be quite honest, that's when you're running a big fucking company, you got to do that. But he would listen to anybody. You know, I wasn't going to go up to him and say, Vince, you're a fucking moron, and here's why. You know, he probably wouldn't have taken that very well.
But that's the thing. Sometimes in life, I've seen this firsthand. When you're a top-end executive, you kind of need that person. Usually it's someone older, but you kind of need that person that can give you a kick in the ass and say, what are you doing? This isn't what you should be doing. When I say it, that's what I mean. I don't know if it would be Linda. I don't know if Dick Ebersol was still hanging out with him around that time. But you need someone, even if you're the most powerful executive in an industry, you need someone to say, maybe it's someone akin in another industry, but you need someone to say, what are you doing? This is wrong.
I would be surprised if Linda McMahon at that point in time in the 90s even had a list of the fucking roster of the wrestlers. She was so removed from anything involved creative, booking, talent acquisitions, etc. She was running the business. He would listen to me, he'd listen to Bruce, he'd listen to Pat, he'd listen to JR's opinions, and he'd do what he wanted to fucking do. And, you know, as long as you didn't say, God damn you motherfucker, he would listen to you, but he would listen to you. Whether he would take your advice or not, it's a different thing. But it wasn't even like a thing where Vince would say, well, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to do something successful in another. No, he just always wanted to do this shit. And when somebody's had so much success in something, it's hard to tell them, well, you're fucking shit out of luck trying to do this other thing because it ain't gonna work. They have to find out for themselves.
I'll bet you $1,000 either right before he dies or in the few years after he dies, there'll be a stock buyback and the family's going to sell it to Disney.
Oh, well, I hope they do because at least it'll continue. Because
Plus, then we get those crossovers like Hulk Hogan meets Darth Vader.
Oh, God. Yeah, I can imagine that. But, there's going to be such a giant clusterfuck of quadruple knockouts going on whenever Vince is gone for who's going to run that fucking thing, because the business people think the wrestling people are all crazy. The wrestling people know that the business people don't know what the fuck they're doing as it relates to wrestling, because it's a fact they don't. And it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens.